Alright guys, so my package of goodies from Performance PCs arrived yesterday. So I have the opportunity now to continue on with the build. One of the key things I needed was a thinner radiator, and here I have a Black Ice LS360. So if I did my measurements right, I believe this guy is going to make it in the top there, hopefully with minimal or no modifications to that top. So basically the way the Lee & Lee PC07S is set up, in this top portion here, there's a bracket. This bracket here holds the fan filter. And so if I were to not use it, I think as I mentioned before, I'd have to drill holes in this top piece, and I really don't want to do that. And the holes that line up on the top here are for this bracket, not for any of the points on a radiator. So it would have been nice if I didn't have to worry about that, but I do, and I don't want to drill into that if I don't have to. So what I'm going to do here now is make sure I have this oriented. So the plan is to have the radiator facing down, and it would be mounted onto this bracket here, and then this bracket mounted inside of here. And then we put the whole assembly down on top of the PC07. So what I'm going to do right now is mount the the filter tray to the rad with the screws that are provided for the Black Ice rad. So it's just as I did with the 360. These should line up just fine. So I'm going to work on that right now. So the holes on the top here are slotted on this tray. So what I think I'm going to do is loosen them up a little bit and then adjust it so that I suspect I'm going to need more space. Oops. Didn't screw that one all the way in at this end. So there we go. So I'm aligning it up like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. That way I have the radiator further in on the case, so I have room to bring fittings and tubing down. And by the way, these radiators, Black Ice makes some awesome radios, and they have all the same. Even this thin LS360 has the same protective points underneath where you put the screws in. So if you did use screws that were too long, you have no worry of damaging the fins underneath, because they'll hit the protective piece that's underneath there. So I don't know if you've seen those, but if you're familiar with Black Ice radiators, underneath this where the screws go through, there's a set of tabs that protect the fins. Alright, so we have the radiator now mounted. The next thing to do is to mount the fans, and we are using the Thermaltake RGB fans, and they're supposed to have good static pressure. They do have a controller for controlling the RGB. It'd be nice if they could interface to the motherboard, but I don't believe that's possible. I've started reading up on that now. Alright, so I'm going to arrange these so that and they are going to be actually in a pull configuration right now. So this radiator and the filter is on the back. So in order for that filter to work at all, although once I install and have water cooling, it's not like I'll be unscrewing the lid to clean the filter out, but just to do it right, and also to add positive pressure into the case, I am going to put the fans in a pull configuration, and pull, push, doesn't really matter at all. So I'm going to put them in pull, and that way that means they have to be mounted like this. And I do want to make sure that I have the wires in the right the right space. So I think it'll go like this, right? So the cables are in the back. And the back, all kind of close together. right, so that way I can hide the cables from a viewing in the front. All right, let me get the, let me go find the splitter that I'm going to use to pull all these together, and actually I can tie these up right now. And I must admit, these fans don't seem to be, they look pretty good. They have a nice black and gray, which is nice, and they have the rubber mounts there. So let me get the screws out to mount them. I'll be right back. Now, I was thinking about taking these fan grills off of the fans that came with the Lee & Lee case and on these Jamicon fans, but I think even just having that much extra thickness on here may interfere with the back area of where the radiator fits. So I'm not going to put them on there. It's not needed. It might have looked nice, but I'm just going to go ahead now and put these on. All right, we now have the fans fitted in the right orientation. I'm going to have the cables putting out the back. I think I'm going to have to mount this controller, how big it is, to the back of the case somewhere. And they give you some Velcro and stuff, so that's nice. So we'll deal with that. But for right now, let's make sure this fits. So next up, what I need to do is mount this back to the top. And I guess, oh, I can always slide that in before I mount it. So let's get these in here. All right, so for right now I just have 2 tacked in there, and then let's see if this fits. And thank goodness there is room along the side here for these cables. Let me rejig the camera so you can see if this is going to work. Oh yes, perfect. Holes right here line up, and we have fitting success. Let me get this guy back off of here. All right, guys, so what I did is I went ahead and put in all the screws for the top assembly. I got the cables for the fans running down along the side, and I tie wrapped them together so that they are all bunched up here. Now they are different lengths because of you know, where the fans are, but that's okay. This is then, I have this now, so my plan is to have this drop down, and I'll show you when I put it on top of the case, so that these cables are routed out and through behind the case so that I can mount the controller for it. All right, so this assembly is good. The only thing I'll need to add is, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm going ahead and put in the filter. If it matters. That looks like it should go in like this. Might as well have some fan filter in there, even though taking that and cleaning it will be a bear, but I can probably put a vacuum up top here and vacuum it off well. All right, so let me get this mounted up there and make sure that these cables can make it through. So I'll rejig this so you can see. something's interfering, and that's the fan filter. So I just got to make sure this fan filter is in all the way. And something else is not right up here. Okay, got cables coming down. Something is interfering. All right, so we have the cables coming down now over here. All right, so they'll come down here, so I'll have to run that controller back in this spot. All right, now while we're back here, one of the things we need to do is run the power cord to the power supply. So let me get out the pieces and show you the power supply situation before I make the change. Lian Li, the way they designed this case for you to run your power, since the power supply is on display up on the inside, you have to run a power cord and bring it out the side of the case. Now they have these spots right here for running your power cord, and you need to remove this panel here in order to access that plate. But basically, you would take your power cord and you would fish this guy through that spot, and then what you would do is you would then run it up through the rest of the case here, and you could then manage the cable along the body of it, and then you would have your power cord sticking out the other end that you would have to run another power strip to, or you could get a longer cord. And then of course, when it comes to inside the case, what you have is a power cord like this coming out. And if it was just an air-cooled case and you didn't have water cooling or radiator up here, that might suffice, but that doesn't look clean to me. I don't like that. So I noticed that when I installed the power supply, started planning some cabling. So what I did is I went online, and I thought the right solution for that is a right-angled connector. So what I have found there's many companies online and even on eBay that make connectors with a right angle. So what I'm going to do is install this right angle connector up here, so that's nice and clean, and then run this cable out the back and dress it properly. And I got two of them. I got a 3-foot and a 4-foot is what I ordered. And if I run this down here, oh, this is look like it's going to come out perfect. I may have to come through it like this, but that's okay. And then I have an adapter here. So then I can take a regular power cord and then plug into it. So that way I can disconnect this case with the minimal, maybe just having this hanging out. I'll tie wrap it up. I tried to find a panel mount, but I got frustrated. I couldn't really find one, and I would have to modify it. That's the proper way to do this. They really should include a power cable. Lian Li, for the price you pay for this case, it'd be nice that they included an adapter cable already that you can mount here, because that's the cleanest solution. For as elegant as this is, having a cable hanging out is not, for me, that's not acceptable. So, but I've cut it down so I don't have a 3-prong cable sticking out of there that I gotta put an extension cord into. I will just have this dressed properly, some right angles, nice and neat, and then I'll have this mounted, sticking right outside the case here. And it looks like I might be able to get it nice and tight in this connector right here. So, and it's got a lip, so it won't push in. Yeah, I think that's going to work out good. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to take off the screws, remove this panel, so I can see if that really works. And I'll show you in a second. All right, so it looks like we have success, guys. That connector, once I took the 3 screws off, removed this panel, it actually, when I put it in here, it gets secured and sandwiched between this opening and the U channel for this for the power right there. So I have power physically hard connected, almost as good as a panel mount. You know, unbelievable. That's great. Now I ordered a 3-foot and a 4-foot cable, and I have the top one plugged in there, so you can see that looks good there. And so dressing this cable, I can probably run it up here, although I'm going to want to bring some cables through there. But I could get it run down here the way it is, or I can run it somewhere like this, get some right angles in there. So I think that's great. That worked out good. And actually, and I have an extra cable here, but this actually turns out they sent me a 6-footer. This is a 3-footer, which works. It looks like that's going to be perfect. 4-footer would give me more room, but I would have had to deal with some extra cable probably. But anyway, so that is the power, internal power setup. And then we can see over here that this guy fits nicely right here, and he is well below where the radiator and the fans are. So I don't have any interference there at all. So that's sweet. All right, guys, so now we're at to the point before I start installing motherboard and cables and graphics cards and board cooling and all that stuff. Still need to follow through with some more fit checks so that I don't run into any gotchas when I'm actually got hardware into this case. So a couple of things I was working on previously, and I wanted to really kind of nail down the drain system. But one of the things that I know that I'm going to be doing is, you know, in this pump reservoir situation, this is an inlet here, and this is the outlet here. Or you can use this as an inlet, but you really need to have more than one port. I mean, you'll get a vacuum vapor lock going on in there if you just run this and you have the out and there's no air to get into the system to bleed. So I went and got a multi-port cap from EK. Actually, I got it at Performance PCs. But then this gives me the capability now to, let's make sure it screws on there. Yep. This is for this reservoir setup. So that gives me the capability to run the inlets. I can, you know, I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. Obviously, I can go out and up to the radiator and then through the blocks and then back, or I can go the other way, right? I could go through out here to the GPU blocks, to the CPU, motherboard blocks, radiator, and then back to here. So either way, that's, you know, those are the two routes to go. How creative I want to get with the tubing, I'm not sure. Also, remember I have cables coming out of here that I got to run back behind here. So, so there's a few things that I have to contend with there yet. And but I do know that I needed this cap. So we got the cap, this cap, saved for some other day. And then the next thing is I want to put a drain. I need to put a drain in here. And I want a drain that I can swivel up into position, because this, when it's standing up, this is the base of this case, but then there's the feet that stick up and they rise up about a bit. So I'm going to need, I know that I'm going to need some swiveling and some, you know, these are all like snakes. I use mostly just Bits Power fittings because of the wide range that they have of them. I am not opposed to using other vendors' fittings, but if I go with one, I kind of like to use it throughout the whole build. So Bits Power gives me the flexibility with all of their snakes and their rotaries and all that to do what I want to do. So that's why I have that. I have a couple of trays, but this is my shiny silver tray. I have a black one too, and I have everything from, you know, compression style fittings for flex tubing to oh, there's some black in here, some multi-link adapters, bunch of plugs, all kinds of pieces. But anyway, what I wanted to do is to figure out the drain valve before I, you know, start putting pieces in here. Now, in order to get the right drain valve dimensions, I don't just have a free fall in here because the graphics card's going to go there. And that's why I have this. I want to put it in place to get an idea of how much space I have. But one of the things that I know, since I'm going to be water cooling, and unless I can't figure out how to get the 2 cards in here, there will be at least one. But you notice the PCB ends right here, right? And then all of this is part of the unique cooler that they have with the Strix, all these heat pipes and all that. So basically I have another like about an inch an additional, since I'm going to be going with a water cooled card. So that buys me some more space coming out this way. So that's good. I'm just to have an idea, I'm going to install this, keep it in mind for right now. And then if I need to remove it, I will. Let me get it in here. There you go. All right, so you can see how tight it is right now. But I have up until, actually, I don't need to have the card in there. I know I have roughly almost to the center of this spot here. Certainly I have where these hard drive brackets are. So that's a good enough gauge. I'll just keep it clear of that. All right. All right, so let's see. I bought some fittings that I needed and some that I think will help with this solution. So let's see here. This was one, and now again I can adjust this in here so this moves around a little bit, but I'm going to remove this. One of my thoughts was to use one of these T valves. It's like a Q block with a T. So, and it's on a rotary. So if I install this here, I have clearance. So I have to about the middle of here. All right. I'm just going to try to keep everything within this. So that gives me enough room to do this. Okay. And that means I can go up with the tubing to go out to the graphics card or go all the way up. All right, so using this piece right here, it sticks out quite a bit, but it does allow me to probably install this guy so that I can swing them out of the way. So I have a couple of different fittings here. Since I'm going to be rotating them out, I need something with rotaries, and that's what these pieces are here. So they will turn. I can get them nice and secure, and then I can adjust them from there. Now, whenever you use one of these Bitspower Q blocks, you notice they're just female threaded. So you're going to need to get one of these male-to-male adapters. So let's see. Right now, I'm just working through this with you guys. So I'm going to install this here. Actually, let's see. Maybe that I have to install in here first, so I don't have a lot of space unless I take that pump out, which I could do. Alright, so it looks like I may have to do that. Now I have to be careful because I already pre-wired this. So got them out so I can install this fitting and see if this will do what I want it to. Alright, let's just fit it back in here for right now. Alright, so this comes out right about to no man's land. So I don't know that that's going to cut it. Unless I bring this in some more. And then putting this on is not going to make it. So that I don't know about that. That doesn't seem right. It's just a lot of work there. The other thing that I found, looks like this is new from Bits Power, or maybe it's not. This is a T. So it doesn't have quite the thickness that that guy has, right? So it's going to be close, but maybe that buys me something. So let's see here. Let's take off the male adapter fitting. And those of you who don't want to see me figure this out, by all means, I understand. You can fast forward. But I'm going to try to do this on camera. Alright, the only problem I have here, this is not a, doesn't give me any rotary, so whatever way it winds up, and luckily I can get it nice and tight like that. Alright, so let's see now, we still have these pieces here, and I have some more adapters. And actually this is the dual fitting. It's the same thing I put in there, although that one seems a lot thinner than this one. But let's see here. Now there's nothing that says I can't put I want the drain valve to be low, so I could put the drain valve off of here actually. That is an option, but right now I don't want to do that. So let's see here. Or maybe I do. Here we go. See if this helps. Or actually a right angle with a rotary built in. So I got this as best I can get it, and I have this now. So that's tight. And then this gets to swing around nice and tight. And now, actually I think what I need to do is exchange this short. Yeah, this is, look how much thinner. I don't know what the part, I have to look up. I bought these guys, these are just much fatter. It looks like the diameter is exactly the same. So I think I have some wiggle room here. Alright, so I got that. And then we have this. Now the question is, with the base on, is that going to be enough? It will fit. It's right on there and the glass mounts to the outside, so I think that'll do it. And actually, I can turn this in a little bit. Let me get the base and see how that looks with the base on. Now the other thing I'm going to try is I could still go with this, because looks like, yeah, I mean, that it doesn't really make a difference, the T or this, and this has some rotary on it and this really doesn't. This is as tight as I get it, is how it goes. But let's see, either way I'm going to contend with the lip on the bottom, so let's see what we got here. Alright, boys and girls, are we cutting this close or what? There it is here. I have the holes lined up for the base here. And this is equivalent to a fitting. Probably I would use a quick disconnect to screw into here. So, looks like we have a drain system selected and installed. And maybe, just maybe, we have We can even make her look pretty. That piece of glass mounts to the outside, so we need to find a nice fitting for that. Okay, so I think we have success here. We figured out at least the drain port. All right, well, let me take her apart here, and let's get this base off because it's not fully sturdy yet. All right, and you can zoom in a little if you like. Now let me find a nice fitting. All right, what do you think? I can't find, I have a bunch of Bits Power ones that are, but they're, I like the ones with the logo, so I will, I think I may have to get some of those. I don't seem to have any. I have a bunch of, plenty of Bits Power ones, but they have, like, you know, the threaded, so you put a flat screwdriver in. I don't want that. I like the nice flat one. See, I have plenty of these. Let's say BP on them. And they're really thick. So anyway, I think the black and the black handle, I think that looks good. Now I have to put the screws in to get this up a little bit, and yep, there she blows. That is going to be the drainage system, and also the start of the loop. And I think the loop order is going to go, so we don't cross anything. It's going to go through the graphics cards, CPU, chipset block, radiator, and back down into here. That is how it's going to go. So guys, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever used an anti-vortex solution in any of my pumps before, mainly probably because the pumps that in my reservoirs, because the reservoirs that I've used are typically tall ones, 250 mil, 400. So I have not, I don't recall it anyway, but I did some research. I looked up about using the foam, and I've heard guys when they went to clean it out, the foam disintegrated. So I can't believe EK would, you know, put a product in there that ultimately over time might do that, but I'm not taking that chance. And so I'm going to go with the standard, the thing that came with it. So I'm just putting in the acrylic anti-vortex piece. There is this tube that you can use. You put an O-ring in the bottom and you put this tube in there, but I don't like that idea. You know, basically it goes like this. You put this O-ring. Oh, well, it looks like that's the O-ring, but anyway, you would slide this all the way down. But that means that the coolant getting into the pump goes through these little slits here. Yeah, so I don't particularly like either of those solutions. I'm going to go with the standard EK anti-vortex acrylic piece that came installed in the pump when I got it. All right, so now I'm going to screw on the top. Let's get this on here. It has the O-ring installed. Good thing to check. All right, so now I'm going to screw the pump back in and secure it because it's kind of wobbly and hanging down. All right, now I screwed in the other side of the support bracket for the pump, and we're still nice and level, so that's all good. That's goodness there, and I think now I have a feeling I'm going to be running, well, I don't know. I'm going to be messing around in this space here, so I'm going to put this out of the way so it doesn't get dinged or damaged. Put it back in my fitting case for now. Clean some of this up, and I think what we're up for next now is to fit the motherboard and start laying some of the cabling, figure out the cabling. I've got power cables. I bought some black alchemy cables. I thought about like silver or colors, but you know, we're going to let the RGB colors really highlight the case, so I'm going to keep everything else black. Yeah. And then the other thing that and the reason why I bought those extension cables is because, number one, they're nice. I did not feel like custom sleeving and making my own, so I got the extensions. Those Phoenix Alchemies are nice. And these are the cables that you get. So these are, you know, these are not bad. At least they're black. But I really would like some sleeve cables. So coming out of here and going out there, they're going to be this. And then coming to the motherboard, they're going to be the sleeve variety. So anyway, that's the plan. Unfortunately, if somebody made custom cables, you know, like Mod My Cables or whatever for this Silverstone, I might have gone with that, but I went with, I'm going to have a combination of these leaving. I'm going to try to cover them up with some piece of black material so that you don't see these, and they'll disappear out here, and then the only thing you'll see is nicely sleeved cables coming back to the motherboard. So anyway, that's the plan. Let's see how well I'm able to do that. But the key thing here now is to let's get the motherboard installed and figure out how these guys are going to be inserted. All right, so we're at the point where I'm ready to mount the motherboard onto the case. But first, I need to mount the CPU block that's going in it. And thank you for everybody's feedback and comments. I decided, and I think most of you selected this, suggested this, is the clear, the EK Clear Clean CSQ. Now, the one thing I've got to consider though when I mount this on the CPU is which orientation I want the inlet and outlet, because it's going to affect kind of how the tubing is, right? So in the case, I can either have, I think what I'm going to do is have the pump feeding the graphics cards. So they're down here actually, so they'll run up, and they can either run to the CPU and come out of the CPU and go into the chipset block and then to the RAD, right? Or they could go from the GPUs to the chipset block, then to the CPU block, and then to the RAD. All right, so in order to mount the block, I need to get the protective backplate. Now here we have, this is for an AMD chip. I won't need this. This is the bracket for the AMD chip. I won't need that. This is, and actually one of these might be for the 1366 chip, and then these are the mounts for those. I don't need any of those. So what I do need though is, we can move that, need to mount the block on the back. So here we have So we're good here. I still have this. I need to clean off the CPU. I still got some residue from the last time I applied the thermal paste. So I need to clean that off better. All right, got it cleaned off. And with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. And now what I'm going to do is, if I can get the cap off, put some MX4 on here, and I tend to use the line method. There have been many tests that show that as long as you put enough and not too little, pretty much you're going to be good. Okay, we look good. Alright, let me clean off this desk, this workbench, and let's get this motherboard mounted into the case, mothers. Alright, one of the things that I like about this Lee & Lee case is they give you a couple of different style thumb screws. That's a pretty long one, and then a shorter head one. Now the threads, of course, are the same, but they are, for this kind of a motherboard, these are the two different sizes that they give you. One's got a bigger head to grasp onto. Now, for this motherboard, that makes a lot of sense. It has all that armor. Oh, and they also have, on both of them, they have a Phillips head on the tip, too. Okay, IO plate's in, and let's see, let's try this again. Now maybe that this back plate is causing troubles. Okay, alright, I see things lined up now. Let's get a screw in here. Right now, I plan I'm going to go with these longer, in case I need to remove them. I don't think they're going to interfere with anything. Alright, we have the motherboard now installed. So let's see, next thing we have to deal with is I'm going to plug in these PCI extender brackets. So this one is the shorter of the two. This is the one that came with the case. This is the other one I bought from Lee & Lee. It's like a 300, I'll put a picture up, 300 millimeters. The only one, the other one that they sell. So this I have to be careful with. I'm just going to curl it over, insert it into the slot properly, and the latch connects it. Have a nice strain relief, a nice little bridge coming up there. I don't know why this green tape is on here. It's been bugging me. Get rid of this shit. Be nice if they have this same kind of black material over it like they do up here. That would have been really nice. Take the connector. Alright, and this is nice and long to fit into the first PCI Express 16 slot. Alright, well at least they're black. And they actually look kind of like the power cables from the Silverstone power supply. Alright, so that's what we got going here so far. Might be able to do something with these later, but those cables are in, they're connected to the bracket. And I think it's time to take some pictures. Alright, so I've taken out the cables, only the cables that I need for the power supply. And these are just the main cables down here. I have the extension cables that I'll need to use, but I have the main 24-pin power cable. Then I have 4, assuming that I can water cool and fit both of the graphics cards. I've got those, and then I have the EPS, 8-pin EPS power, and 1 SATA cable. Now this pump requires a Molex, but I bought an adapter that's coming that allows me to plug into this and gives me a Molex. I only need one. I'm not plugging in another cable just to take care of that one. So what I'm going to do now is I'll lay this down, run the cables through as best I can, and then start looking at the back and dealing with some cable management, figuring that out. so that it's manageable as we get through this. So for right now, before I connect these up, I'm just going to run these cables here. We'll be back. So where we last left off was I installed the power supply and the power supply cables coming out the back. I still think I might put something in front of it to block it out. But one of the things I did get was a bunch of extension cables, because these cables, although they're black, I still kind of like having cables that are sleeved. And these are BitPhoenix Alchemy cables. I've used these before in the past. I did not, for this build, did not want to sleeve my own on the power supplies. It takes some time, and I did not enlist anybody to do them for me. So I'm going to try using these extension cables, and we'll see how well they look. Now, the one thing to recognize, though, is of course this is really not a lot of space, right? So I'm going to have SATA cables coming in. I got power cables got to come in. And then the video cables got to come in. So you're just going to have a few points, but I do have quite a bit of cable back here that has to be managed. So here we have the cables from the power supply, and I just have, this is a modular power supply, so all I did was I just have your basic key cables that I need, and I actually went out and bought for the one lone Molex connector. I was not going to install a whole separate cable just to feed that one puppy. And since I only have right now one SSD planned for this, I might add another drive, but even with that, you can see this cable comes from Silverstone with 1, 2, 3, 4 connectors on it. So my plan is to use an adapter. So what I did is I got a StarTech adapter that converts a SATA connection. So one of these puppies into the Molex connector that I need to provide power for the cable, for the pump. So I've got that solved without having to run a whole nother freaking cable. Now I am going to have to deal with dressing cables in here. I think I already showed you my power cable situation, so that's going to come out good. But I need to start making plans for this, and I need to start adapting these cables and running them through the case at the other side. So that's the plan. I'm going to go ahead and do some basic cable management, I think, right now, lay it out, and then we'll get into basically really what we're going to talk about next is once I get all this cable addressed, we need to get the graphic cards water blocks on and finish the drain for the pump, and then after that we're going to be talking about doing the acrylic tubing. Oh, I forgot, I don't have the fan radiator assembly on the top yet, but I thought since I'm going to have to run cables through in and out of here, I will put that on obviously once I get the cables, the main cables done. So I have space and room to move around here right now. And once I get that on there, I'll just have to run the fan cables out to connect to the controller. This controller is the one that provides the RGB controls for the thermal take fans that are on the radiator. So I got to place that as well. So you can see I have some space. Thank goodness there is quite a bit of space here right now. We've got about an inch and a half, roughly, almost an inch and a half worth of depth here to move around to put cables in. So let me go ahead and get started doing that. So I've got the radiator fans and the cables run. I'll turn it around and show you. And then down here I just had to sleeve this. So this is the controller cable coming from the thermal take fan module. So, and it did not have a heat shrink here. It had its own sleeving, so I added some heat shrink to marry up with the heat shrink that I put over the front panel connectors. that go onto the motherboard section there. So that is all unique. I still need to cover this up. Forgot to do that. I need to do that. And let's see here on the back, pretty much good to go there. I have the controller module velcroed there, not going anywhere. The controller cable coming down around through where these other cables are, and then up to the motherboard that you saw before. And I did tie wrap it. You can't see, but I tie wrapped it so those two cables kind of dress together. So that's it for the main cabling. And the only things I will have to do is add in the 2 to 4, depending on how many graphics cards I can fit in there and cleanly. I will add those later. And we have plenty of space right here to dress them up neatly. This is all pretty flat. I can't see anything that's going to interfere with mounting the back panel on here. So, and you can see here I ended the sleeving. This is where the sleeving ends for the front panel cables. I didn't sleeve it all the way back to the panel because nobody's going to see it except for that front area. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is get out some fittings and clean up the drain port. I'm going to get that done and see if I can find some black for that piece there, and then we're ready to rock and roll. I know I have a little bit of white on that, but that was one of the best SATA cables I could find, and it's already sleeved and everything, so I'm going to leave it with that. And yep, let me go get some fittings out and we'll play with this. So I guess I got a little bit of OCD in me because it got the best of me having this white cable in there. Okay, so I took it out and I sleeved a black one. So that didn't get by me. Now we're continuing with the dark theme. And then finally, I've been complaining about this SFP connector and the bright shiny cables that they use, and they sleeved it, but they didn't sleeve it all the way up. So finally, I found a piece of heat shrink tubing that, man, it was a bitch, but I don't know if you've ever stretched shrink tubing. I didn't have anything big enough that would shrink down between the sides of this and that cable. So I had a piece, and I don't know if you've ever done it, but you take some pliers and you stretch the cavity of that heat shrink tubing, and then I stretched it even more with this, and probably took me a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes to snake it over this front portion here where the locking mechanism is. So I've got it, and now I'm going to shrink it down, and then I'll have nice all clean black sleeved cables connecting to the motherboard, and hopefully I won't find anything else that I have to tweak up at the end, but I think we're good. So that's it, guys. That's it for this video. Next video I have to get into putting the water blocks on the graphics cards, making sure I have all of the fittings I need and the tubing that I'm going to use so that I can start bending and installing that. So that's it. I hope you did like this video. If you did please like and please favorite, and if you're so inclined, please subscribe. but you'll get to see